afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. Y'all are here for day 14 of Teen Driver Education, the Hernandez Driveway. Today we're going to be talking about adverse conditions and handling emergencies, folks. And, we're almost here at the end. We got today and tomorrow left. And then, of course, just as a reminder, we are going to be posting the final assignment as well in the final posting tomorrow. I'll post day 15 assignment, day 16 assignment, then a little inspirational quote I like to remind y'all of at the end of class, or at the end of the course. And once you have all those assignments done, once you have your permit, you then need to jump on that and start requesting those drives, right? The sooner you get on that, the sooner you knock out your first one. Remember, keep them once a month. Once a month. And the reason that we do this is so that we can teach you, because even if you're already a good driver, right, or a confident driver, I should say, the skills we're going to teach you are what the state of Texas expects us to do every single day. Okay? And for those of you that already have some driving skills, well, we're going to need to reteach you how to do some basic things. And so we need to do that as soon as possible so that you can practice. And at the end of those 6 months, that will not just be a driving skill, it'll be a driving habit. It'll be something you do automatically. And that's the reason the driver's education is, or one of the reasons the driver's education is now mandatory, because not enough people are driving exactly the way we need to be. If we think about things like turning at intersections, that's a big one right there. Like, okay, let's say you're making a left on an intersection, you and the people across from you both have the green arrow. What I see regularly is people are over here at the starting position and they immediately just start hooking over. Problem with that is when there's a car in the turning lane from the lane next to the one you're about to turn into, and they're pulled too far forward. Now a lot of times, because we're starting that turn early, we run that risk, and now we have to go into that further lane, which isn't what we got to be doing. We got to be getting into that nearest lane heading in the direction we're going to travel. Sometimes people are making last little minute turns and adjustments on the steering wheel to finish getting around a vehicle, and that's not right. Right? When you do things the proper way, when you pull forward and wait until you're in the proper position to start your turn, okay, you put yourself in a much better position to not wind up in that situation. And that's really the importance of these 7 driving lessons. We're going to teach you the right way to do it, and then y'all are going to practice and practice. And if you're already a driver, here's the thing. If you think that you could already pass the DPS driven test, well, A, you're probably right. But it wouldn't be a great score. Probably, I say, because of stops. Okay, stops will automatically fail you. Leaving the roadway will automatically fail you. Crossing the median line because you're not paying attention to the roadway will automatically fail you. Okay? Any kind of violation of traffic law is an auto fail. And we need to make sure that we're doing everything the right way, right? So as soon as we get these assignments done, start requesting those drives. If you've already got that permit, if you haven't exchanged your certificate, the envelope and all the stuff inside, and the other things you need to get together for that permit, please do so before you schedule your first drive. We'd hate for you to have to pay a no-show fee because you weren't able to get your permit in time. Okay? Now, having said that, let's go ahead and jump right into today's lesson. And tomorrow we'll take one more look at that accident report website. Right, so adverse conditions and handling emergencies, the Hernandez Driveway. Right, so windshield. It is very important to keep your windows, especially the front windshield, clean. Many people clean the outside, but often forget to clean the inside. Right now I'm in this spot where I need to clean my inside windshield. And when I get out of work, I'm gonna go buy me some Windex, because just today, there was a lot of nice sun, and I saw how bad it had gotten, and it needs to get clean, because we're talking in the car, we spit on the windshield, we get oils from the foods that we eat, we get saliva, we get all kinds of things on the inside of that windshield, and it gets dirty too. Maybe there was a fly and we swatted it and then we got it. Well, that's on the inside of the windshield. So once a month, you can get some Windex or some windshield washer fluid out that jug you keep in the trunk, hopefully. Or, here's the crazy one, hold a paper towel in front of the little sprayer that sprays your windshield washer fluid, and then crank the windshield washer fluid, or have somebody else hold it while you do that. And then boom, you got windshield washer fluid on your paper towel. Wipe down the inside of the windshield. Keep it nice and clean to prevent glare, right? All right, because not having your windows clean and then having bright sunshine come through can create sun glare and make looking through your windows very difficult. Because glare is just like improper diffusion of light. Basically, light hits something that it can't slide right through, and now it spreads in a funky way, and that creates, you know, a more blinding light that you have to deal with, right? So keep the inside windshield clean, and the one in the back needs to get cleaned as well, not as often. Once a year is fine for that guy because it's really just getting all the stuff that like floats around in the car, like when you sneeze, things like that. But that front windshield, we should be cleaning that like once a month. All right, and it just takes like 30 seconds, a little bit of Windex and a paper towel. You're good to go. It's not super dirty, it's just dirty enough. Right now, nighttime and headlights. When do you turn on your headlights? Well, 30 minutes after the sun sets, it gets completely dark, and that's when we need to have those headlights on. Okay, 30 minutes before sunrise, the ambient light is already starting to come up, and that's when we get to turn our headlights off. Anytime you can't see clearly for 1,000 feet, you turn your headlights on, whether that's due to weather, you know, like a dust storm, you know, maybe there's a lot of ash or snow or rain or something falling from the sky. For whatever reason, you can't see 1,000 feet, you get on your headlights to ensure that you are visible. Okay? The only time you should use your high beams when you are on an unlit country road at night by yourself. Okay? That's the only time we use our high beams. Low beams is the rest of the time. All right. Now, what type of lighting do we use in fog, rain, and snow? And what other precautions should you take? Well, we just said it. We only use our high beams during unlit country roads at night. So that means every other time we're using our headlights, we're using our low beams. All right, because that is going to illuminate the road without having the light go straight out and have the possibility of reflecting back at us. Because that is what water does better than anything else, is it changes the direction that light travels. It's kind of amazing that way. That's why when you look at like a fish tank from the top, everything looks like off position from what you're looking at on the side. Or if you step into a pond, it looks like your leg has a weird bend to it because the light bends. All right. So reflected light back in your face, well, that's just going to blind you. That's going to make it harder for you to see. So don't use your high beams in inclement weather. High beams are only for unlit country roads at night. Y'all got it. All right. And then what precautions should you take? Well, regardless of what kind of bad weather it is, if there is lots of weather occurring, whether it's heavy winds, whether it's rain, snow, sleet, hail, well, you shouldn't be driving in hail. I mean, that's just bad for you and your car. You're going to have a heart attack when you find out how much the damage to repair all that stuff is. Because hail that might leave a little dent on your car, stationary, will leave a dent on your car or damage your paint job when you're going 30 miles an hour. Right? Increase your following distance. Roads covered with ice, snow, sleet, hail, water, even dust become more slippery. It is harder to maintain maximum traction in bad weather. So open up that distance between you and the other driver so that if there is an emergency, you have more time to respond and you can slow down more cautiously instead of having to rely on slamming on the brakes. Because slamming on the brakes in snow is a no-go. All right? Now, blowout. When a tire has a sudden loss of air pressure, we call this a blowout. All right? This is the only time you're actually going to use your brakes while you have a loss of control. All right? And it's not a total loss of control, it's just a partial loss of control. All right? However, you have lost some control because now you're rolling on 3 tires. All right? So you need to grip the steering wheel firmly. Why? Because your rim could bend, get damaged, could hit something, and cause the wheels to turn if it's one of the front tires. If it's one of the back tires, you could just be in the constant state of having little micro bursts of loss of traction, and your car is kind of like drifting. Right? Holding onto the wheel firmly will allow you to maintain the best possible control. 2 hands. Right? Yes, people drive with 1 hand. When you're having an emergency, always 2. When you see an emergency might come up, switch to 2. When everything's cool, 1 hand. All right. Now, ease off the accelerator, but do not hit the brakes. Check for traffic, gain control, meaning make sure the car is going where you want it to go, all right? And then drive off to the right slowly while, now when we say brake gently, we mean take your foot, put it over the brake, and then slowly start pressing that in. And once you feel the brakes start to work, that's the braking point. That is braking gently. You're barely touching it just enough to where you do feel that the car is slowing down. The reason you don't want to brake aggressively is because then your car can do this, like that wobbly table that the one leg is too short. The only difference is every time that busted tire hits, you're damaging the rim, you're damaging important parts in there. I mean, you break a PVC joint, that's a couple $100. You break a tie rod, that's like a couple $100. You know, anything you damage in there could be a couple $100 independently, and there's 5 or 6 important things in that wheel assembly hub that could be damaged. So you could wind up spending close to $1,000 if you brake too aggressively when you have a blowout. So always brake cautiously, all right? And then, anytime you are having an emergency, before the instruction tells you to do so, once you have a blowout, let's just turn on that flasher ahead of time. Like, boom, tire pop, first thing I do, inform the others that I'm having an emergency. And why is that? Because if they don't know, they can't do anything to avoid you. So, the second you have any kind of an emergency, you start to skid a little bit, tap the flasher. You got to slow down because there's traffic's about to stop ahead of you, tap that flasher. All right, if you have a blowout, bam, hit that button. It's just a quick hit, and now all your lights are flashing, letting people know that, hey, something hinky's going down. All right, so, yeah. Sorry, I was not on the YouTube, so I could not see if y'all were commenting. Okay, now, changing a tire. Okay, so the other day, before we go into this, the other day we talked about center of gravity, and we talked about the way it relates to cars, and I told y'all that the Jeep Wrangler has the highest center of gravity and the narrowest wheelbase, and is the most likely to tip over, because those are the 2 factors in that. Well, when you're changing a tire, okay, this is a scissor jack. This jack is opened up by the turning of a screw. Turn it one way, it goes down. Turn it the other way, it goes up. But just like cars, this has a center of gravity. All right, now this is our base. This is the size that we're working on, okay? And the height, well, the height goes up to about 14 inches, okay? So that means that this has a narrow wheelbase and a high height. All right, and as we discussed the other day, that means that something is more likely to tip over. Okay, it's more likely to lose its center of balance. So when it comes time to change your tire, I hope you don't have to rely on this guy, because those little feet right there just don't do it. All right, now, we do have another variety of jacks, and these do cost a little bit of money. You're going to spend about $40 buying yourself one. However, one second, I'm just getting it up for y'all. Y'all can see. This is a rolling floor jack. Now, the base on this is 8 times as large as that one you get for free. Okay? Although the height is about the same. It's about 14 inches up. Right? That's how high you need it to take stuff up for you. Okay? Now, folks, this is going to be much more stable. Okay? The base being 8 times larger means that it is going to have 8 times the stability. Okay? So please do not rely on the junk that comes with your car, right? Because that's the jack that you use. Now, the pry bar that you use, the tool that they expect you to loosen the bolts with, the lug wrench, the one you get for free looks like this. Now, this is the bane of existence for anyone who does not have arms like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and you got to take a tire off. If this is all you have to work with, you have got to be swole on a level that is just impressive for any, like if you have arms so big that when you're walking by, like random dudes or random ladies, if whatever your gender is, and they stop and they're like, damn, don't piss that person off. Like, they make statements like that. Or if you're so swole that people like cross the street to not get close to you because they're kind of intimidated, then you have enough muscle to use this to adequately take off a tire. If you are not that developed, then the very minimum what I recommend y'all get is what's called a cheater bar. And that is a piece of pipe that goes over the end of the lug and will allow you to increase the length of the lever. Because as a wise guy once said, his name was Archimedes, and he said, give me a fulcrum high enough, that's a place to pivot the force from, and a lever long enough, and that would be this, and I will move the world. And he's absolutely right. Okay, the longer this handle is, the less work it takes to do this and break those nuts. So a cheater bar is going to extend this. Problem with this one, though, is that because it's so small, most of the pipes that you find that'll comfortably slide over this diameter are also going to be very thin. Okay, and that could bend, break on you as you're attempting to use it for the purpose. So maybe not the best. However, you can go out and buy a cross lug wrench. That's a cruceta, for those of you that have a tío that's asked for that in Spanish before. But yeah, it's that T-shaped lug wrench. It's got 4 different sizes on it. But what's awesome is standard size piping, like for fencing, like the ones that go across the top, fit right over the largest lug on those. All right. And what that means is that you can get pipe that's designed to take like damage and stuff and not bend, and use that as your cheater bar. A 4-foot segment of that is going to mean that it takes 1/4 the strength required to do it this way. Okay. Double the length, cut the amount of power in half. Triple the length, it's now 1/3. Quadruple the length, it's now 1/4. A 4-foot cheater bar over a cruceta. The cruceta itself is going to offer stability because you'll have a handle on either side. So you can use both arms. That does help reduce already down to 50% because it's basically this long on either side. Okay. But then the use of a cheater bar, boom, we now got that 4 times as long. Bring it down, and it's going to be so much easier that anyone can generate that level of force by simply putting their weight into it. All right. 400 pounds of torque, like a compression air gun does, a pneumatic air gun, the kind that they put your tires on with. Funny noises that the NASCAR machines make when they're getting those tires changed out, all super fast. Those machines crank out a ton of power, like 400 pounds of power, 300 pounds of power. Right? So you need to be able to respond in the opposite direction. Well, if you can't generate 300 pounds of power with just this, then use this. Use that lever. The longer the lever, the longer the lever, the less the work. Okay? So get yourself a better lug wrench. Get yourself a better jack. And now, on the subject of spare tires, okay, there's another freebie that you get. And as you've guessed from the other two, free generally does not mean good when it comes to cars. And I would like to introduce you to what is commonly referred to as the donut. Now, as you can see, look, my hand's closed. The donut is not very wide, right? The donut is the standard size of a tire, okay? But the donut has some lovely restrictions that you have to keep in mind. See, for instance, it needs to be filled to 50 pounds of pressure. Now, the one we have here, where did I leave my air gauge? There it is. The one we have here is definitely not at 50 pounds of pressure because it's just been sitting there not in use. So the donut needs to be maintenance at least once a month to make sure that the air pressure is still adequate. If you are more than 10 pounds light on the air pressure, oh my goodness. Yeah, this thing has so little pressure it's not even dropping the needle. It's not getting the gauge to respond. That means it's got less than 5 pounds of pressure in it right now. A tire that is unused and just sits there loses air pressure. All right. That one cannot be driven at speeds of over 45 miles an hour. You cannot drive it for longer than 15 miles because it's not suitable for distances further than that. It's liable to pop on you again, and then you got to be changing a tire again. Okay. Plain and simple, the donut is to spare tires what a paper bag for a goldfish is. Yeah, technically you could put a goldfish in a paper bag with some water, but you'd have to be really lucky to get home with that safely. Well, same thing with the donut. Okay? The donut tire is not designed for high speeds. It's not designed for rough driving. It's not designed for heavy weight. It's not designed for long distances, but it requires the highest air pressure. So that means it has to be constantly maintenance and maintained. Now, you can go down to a junkyard and for about $20 pick up a rim that will fit your car. Maybe it won't match all the other ones perfectly, but it will fit your car. And a used tire shop will typically sell you a tire from anywhere to $30 to $45 that will fit your vehicle. So for $55, the loss, less than the cost of one tow or 3 Uber rides and or 2 Uber rides, one to the tire shop and one back, and the cost of a spare tire by itself, you can have a spare tire that A, will be filled to the same level that the tires on your vehicle are, B, because of the design of the rim, the tire, the size, they're intended for long-term regular use. That means as long as the air pressure stays good and you still just check it once a month yourself. When it needs air, you go put air in it. When it doesn't, you're fine. It'll take months before it loses sufficient pressure to require you going to the shop to go put air in for a real size tire. The donut, a month, and it'll have lost enough pressure that maybe not, it'll work. All right. Now I understand I'm telling you all to spend money. You know, I'm asking you to buy a cruceta. Those are like $15. A piece of pipe, that's probably gonna be like another 10 with the price of metal now. The jack is $40. The rim is like $20, $25. The tire is, $30 to $45, somewhere in there. But here's the deal, folks. When you have to change your tire, it's usually while you're busy living life. All right. Now, unfortunately, my cruceta and my jack were stolen the last time that my tools were stolen, and I quite simply have not gotten around to replacing them. So all I have to work with at this point in time is the tire. I don't have one mounted on a rim, but I do have a full-size tire that fits my vehicle, because you have to. Tire shops don't always have one. And I've got a cruceta. So that means I still need to get an Uber lift or an Uber ride in like a truck, preferably, so I can throw both of those in the back. They can swap it out, bring me back, and get that done. All right, I need to follow my own advice and get it. I just haven't done it with this new vehicle. All right, it's part procrastination, part money. Okay, but folks, not having what you need to put a real tire on there, or put a tire on there when conditions may not be awesome, makes it just a ton harder. All right, if all you have is that little one, you may not be able to actually get those nuts loosened up. All right. If you don't have the right jack and it's super windy, maybe that little scissor jack's just going to get tipped over repeatedly, and you're going to wind up damaging your vehicle. Okay, so I do strongly recommend getting the right stuff. Now the good thing is that floor jack, as long as you don't lose any of the parts, you can use that same jack probably your entire automotive driving life. All right, the one that I had stolen out of my vehicle, I'd had for about 10 years, and it worked just as good. The last time I used it for a friend than it did the day that I got it and tried it out, right? Because they're solid, they're built to last. Okay? The cruceta, once again, it's the last one you have to buy because it's got all 4 sizes that are the standard sizes you'll find for passenger cars, trucks, and vans in the United States. So as long as you ain't planning to move out the country, that will be the last tool that you need to buy. The cross lug wrench will have all the standard sizes. Your cheater bar, make sure it goes over the largest lug, and you're good to go. You'll never have to replace that either unless you bend it. And if you bend it, well, it's a good thing you had the cheater bar, because without it, you definitely wouldn't have been able to loosen up that lug. And it bending means that an excessive amount of force was going through there, and it was required. So get the right equipment when you get your car. It's an investment in your well-being. And when you do get the right equipment, try it out. Jack up the car, put the new tire on, loosen all the lugs and then tighten them all back up. Just practice changing the tire. Once you've done it a time or two, it's really not that difficult. Okay, it seems a little daunting the first time and it's definitely frustrating, but practice it, because like any other skill, the more practice you have, the more familiar you are with it, the easier time you're going to have. So now that I've said that, park on level ground, shift to park, and turn on your hazard lights. Okay? Let people know, hey, I'm here by my car and I got problems. Right? If the roadside tire is the one that's flat, I highly recommend moving and giving yourself as much space as possible, even if that means that your other tires may be slightly off the roadway, because remember, drivers aren't always courteous and you need that space because you're going to be sitting there trying to change that tire. Okay? Now, set the parking brake. This is going to be, once the vehicle's in park on level ground and you've got your hazards on, you set your parking brake. Why? Because when your car is in park, it can still move this much. I don't know why, but it can drift forward or back about 4 inches. Okay? That's just how it works. So, not stable, still capable of moving. Set the parking brake and that 4 inches gets cut down to about 1/8 of an inch. Because your parking brake does not want the vehicle to move. It's going to hold everything nice and steady. Okay? Now, we're going to block the wheel diagonally opposite the flat tire. Okay? So, first and foremost, a block is generally a piece of rubber shaped like a triangle. Okay? And it's like full up on the bottom, and you put one in the front and one in the back of the tire, and then it's like the tire is being cradled on either side. All right? But when they say opposite the flat tire, they mean if your flat is here, you are going to block this tire. If your flat is here, you will block this tire. If it's here, you will block this tire. If it's here, you will block the tire up here. Okay? Opposite. On the other side. Why? Because once again, we're trying to minimize the opportunity for movement. Because as much as 2 inches of movement could tip the jack over, or as little as 2 inches of movement could tip the jack over, or 1 inch, depending on the kind of jack you're using. And if that happens, well, now your car is pinning your jack, and how are you going to lift the car off the ground? Yeah, that gets difficult. So we need to make sure that we block the wheel diagonally from the flat tire so that the vehicle moves as little as possible. And now kindly ask your passengers to get out. And when they don't, tell them, well, if you move and my car moves and it falls over and you damage something, you're responsible. So give me $600 and you can sit in the car. And then people will quickly get out of your car because they won't understand why you're saying that, because they don't care about your car. It's your car, not theirs. If it was their car, you bet they'd be telling you to get out. All right. If someone tells you you don't have to get out while they're changing a flat tire, they are mistaken, because the wrong movement at the wrong moment could tip the jack over, cause damage, or could even drop the car on that person. Like maybe their foot gets a little too far under, something silly like that. So make sure you get everyone out of the vehicle. All right. If you've got like your sick grandma that can't even move her to the seat furthest from the flat. All right. If it's back passenger side, put her in the driver's seat. If you positively have to leave somebody in the car, put them in the seat that you blocked, closest to the tire that you blocked. Okay? This will minimize the risk, but everyone should get out. Should. Maximum safety. Your choice not to get someone out of the car, that's your choice, but understand that you are increasing the risk the car is going to fall over. Okay? Now, get out that spare tire, the full size, your jack, and the lug wrench. Right? And please don't rely on the stuff that they give you with the car. Get the better stuff. Get the upgrades. Right? Position the jack underneath the vehicle so that the head will come in contact with a part of the frame. Well, the frame is kind of hard to identify for most people. What you're looking for is unpainted gray or maybe even rust-colored metal, because it is just, it's coated with zinc sometimes. to prevent rusting, but not all the time. And impacts, scratches from stuff bouncing on the ground can knock off that zinc layer, and then it starts to rust anyway. Okay? But you're looking for just metal-looking metal that's going to be about that thick, and you'll see like little holes in it randomly that allows you to see how thick the material is. That's your frame, and it goes in a big rectangle around your entire car. So there will be a spot of frame somewhere near the area that you're working. Okay? Jack the vehicle part way up so the tire is still touching the ground, but the car has begun to lift. All right, that's because your suspension is going to require you to lift the car about this much before the tire starts floating. Okay, anything less than this, and there's still pressure on the tire from just the weight of the lower axle. Okay, but the reason we do this is because this is the point where we remove the covering for the wheel or the hubcap or that little tapita just by the lug nuts, and then we start to loosen the lug nuts. All right, now if you do have the cheater bar and the cruceta, you put the cruceta the size it fits on, okay? You put your cheater bar on, and then you twist. Get over here, pull it off, put the cruceta or the cheater bar on the other side, because remember it's cross-shaped. So put it on the other side, and again, right? Now, when you first start, it's going to be tough. You may hear some weird grinding or popping noises. That is normal, that is to be expected, because they were machine tightened and it's metal rubbing on metal, okay? Once you get it and it stops making those freaky noises and everything spins nice and easy, you're good, stop. All right, once you're able to just turn it, you're like, okay, that one's loosened, next. All right, and then loosen them in that star pattern. Remember that star we learned to draw in elementary? Ding, 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 back up to the top, and boom, it looks like a star. Okay, use that pattern. If you've got 5 lugs, it works out perfect. If you've got 6, you wind up making a Star of David. If you've got 7, you make something a little odder, but still doesn't matter because that's the one you use. That way you evenly loosen up the pressure and the tire doesn't like cock out a little bit and then get like a little wedged, a little stuck by the position of the tire itself. All right, and you also tighten in that order. All right, and that's to ensure that you have a flat and level meeting of the tire onto the wheel assembly hub. All right, but jack it up part way. Loosen the lug nuts. Once the lug nuts are loosened, lift the tire completely off the ground and finish removing them. If you don't loosen them and you get the tire completely off the ground, you're going to have to lower the tire back down, because if it's on there super tight, you're going to do this. Put on your lug, slide on the cheater bar, and turn, and the whole tire is just going to spin. And no tension is going to be released, because that's the way that those tires work. If they're floating and they're fine, you can just spin them. Okay? So then you jack the tire up off the ground, finish removing the lug nuts, and now you'll pull off the flat tire. All right? Put on your spare. Now, putting on the spare can be difficult for a couple reasons. One, all the holes need to line up for the lugs, right? Well, we lifted the tire completely off the ground, so now those lugs, those bolts that you're trying to fit the tire onto, actually require you to lift the tire. What I do is I put the tire in the perfect position so it'll line up with the lugs without bumping into them, because remember, that disc will spin. Okay? Now, or may spin. Now, once you've done that, roll it to the side, and what I do is I just put my toes, my foot right there, and I roll the tire back up onto my foot. Now, if the lugs are still too low, I lift with my toes, and I'll raise it that little bit and just kind of push it on once it's perfectly lined up. All right, if the lug bolts are too low now, or if the holes are not too low, but the lugs are too low, when you roll it up onto your toe, just raise the tire, raise the vehicle a little bit more using the jack, and then you'll be able to get it in. But you gotta line up those holes, and that can be a pain in and of itself. But once you get it, you just push in and boom. Now you just put them on with your fingers, the lug nuts, and then tighten them. And remember, that star pattern, as tight as you can. Once the wheel starts to spin, you're good. Why? Because when you put the vehicle back down, you lower the vehicle back to the ground, then you tighten your lug nuts again and again in that start pattern and use that cheater bar. Get that maximum torque to where your arms are like, and you're giving it all you got. All right? And you'll hear that same sort of metal on metal grinding noise. That's okay. That means you're tightening it the way it needs to be. Once you hear that start up, you're good to go. You got a nice tight grip on there. Okay? And then you finish lowering the jack, put everything away, and you're good to go. You've changed to tighter. All right? Remember, upgrade your gear. All right? It's like for those of you that play video games. This is a level 1 dagger. Right? The cruceta is a buster sword. Okay? The scissor jack is a level 1 suit of armor. Okay? The floor jack is golden armor. You know, it's something awesome. Okay? But relying on beginner gear, never a wise option. So you're always going to come to a point where the beginner gear just isn't good enough to cut it. All right. Sorry, Fix-It Samo, can't watch your video. You decided to copyright it. Now, total brake failure. Okay. Now, your brakes are part of a hydraulic system. That means that there is fluid involved, and, you know, you have to monitor that fluid. It's not something that you get to, like, never think about again for the rest of your life. Sometimes air will get into the system. If that does happen, okay, if air gets into the system, you're going to press the brake and nothing's going to happen. Okay? If you experience this, start pumping the brake pedal. That's the first thing to do. If you still have fluid in those lines and you haven't ruptured and lost it all, this will hopefully move those bubbles up and away, and then it'll just be fluid right there near the calipers, the parts that actually squeeze the brakes to stop the vehicle, and that'll get them to finally start gripping. All right? If that doesn't work, now we have to use our engine to slow ourselves down. So if you're in an automatic vehicle or in a manual vehicle, downshift. Okay? You're in 5th gear, drop it to 4th, drop it to 3rd, drop it to 2nd, drop it to 1st. Okay? And gradually apply the parking brake. Search for an open zone and get off the roadway. Okay? If you are like on the expressway and you need to slow down from a much higher speed, okay, the parking brake cannot be used safely if you're going over 20 miles an hour unless you are a master at the Tokyo Drift. Right? If you are not a drift driver, then using the handbrake at high speeds could result in a sudden and dramatic loss of control, which could lead to a spin out, a rollover, or a serious collision. All right? However, if you're driving an automatic vehicle, there's another way we can immediately cut power to the engine and our vehicle will slow down faster. That's called turning the car off. So move the vehicle into neutral so that the engine is no longer supplying additional force to the vehicle, and then turn the car off and do the same thing. Get yourself off the roadway. Now make sure you're already in the closest lane when you do turn the vehicle off so that you are able to get off the roadway, because there's not going to be anything worse than trying to get off the roadway and not being able to move over and winding stuck in the middle of the road, because then you are going to run a very high risk of getting into a collision. All right, so move over to the right-hand side, put the vehicle into neutral, and then once it's in neutral, turn the car off and let the car roll. Let it slow itself down. It will lose momentum quickly. Once you are under 20 miles an hour, you will slowly get your handbrake and lift until you, once again, just like the braking point on the pedal, you're only going to lift until you feel it start to slow the vehicle down, and then you just leave it right there. Okay? And the vehicle will continue to slow down and eventually stop. Once you're at like 5 or 10 miles an hour, you can use that a little bit more aggressively to stop the vehicle. Okay? Doing so isn't the best for your vehicle itself, the transmission. However, it will save your life, and it's much preferable to, you know, crashing into something going 70 miles an hour. Okay? Now, brake fade. When brakes overheat and lose their effectiveness, we call this brake fade. Okay? If this happens, we need to stop the vehicle and let the brakes cool off. Now, what might an individual have in their vehicle to help them cool down the brakes? Well, lots of people have water, and you may think something's hot, add water, water cools it down. Don't use water to cool down your brakes. Don't use water to defrost your windshield. Why? Because things do not like rapid temperature change. Brittle things do not like rapid temperature change. right? If something goes from extremely hot to extremely cold quickly, or vice versa, and it is brittle, it is more likely to break because things expand when they get hot and they contract when they get cold. Now, we don't notice it on things like rocks and glass because they're micro expansions, micro compressions, but they can't really take anything greater than that without breaking. And if you use boiling water to defrost a windshield, well, your windshield's going to shatter. If you use cold water to cool down your brakes, your brake pads, because they're polymer, they're made out of stone and plastic, a very brittle but durable material, they will shatter, and then you really won't have brakes. Okay? Then it's going to cost you, $60-70 to get your brake pads replaced. Maybe even have to get towed somewhere. So do not attempt to cool off if you experience brake fade. But the good news is brake fade only happens on long downhills. You've been driving downhill for like 5 minutes because you're going down a mountain sort of downhills. That's where brake fade will happen because you're constantly riding the brakes because the gravity is pulling you down. Your car wants to speed up as you're going down, and you have to continually use your brakes to stay going the speed limit. That's when you're going to experience brake fade. When you feel that sudden slip, that means it's time to pull over, get off the roadway, and give our brakes some time to chill out. Okay? But down here in the valley, not going to happen. All right? But do know that if you are riding your brakes successfully because of a massive downhill, that is a possibility. Now, we have accelerator malfunctions coming up. Okay, our next emergency. Now, this can be caused by one of two things. It could be a broken spring or a stuck accelerator, and they both have both cause very different problems. A broken spring is the spring that connects to the accelerator and allows you to adjust the throttle body to increase the amount of gas being fed to your engine. Well, they're no longer connected, and now when you press that pad, well, it's all the way at the bottom, and the pedal's not doing anything because the spring is disconnected. All right. If that happens, we do the same thing that we do for the last one. Shift into neutral, put on your hazard lights, and brake safely off the road. If you're going super fast and you need to lose speed faster, then you're going to go ahead and just turn the vehicle off and let it coast to a stop. All right. But your brakes are working on this one, so you can use the brakes to stop normally. It's the accelerator that's giving you the problem. But in the event that you need to get stuff done super fast because you're in a dicey situation, you can't always shut off the vehicle. But remember, your brakes are working, use the brakes. Right now, stuck accelerator is the opposite of the problem because now your vehicle, it's not that you can't speed your vehicle up. Now the pedal is stuck down and your car is starting to max out. It's going faster and faster because you've got the pedal to the metal. Okay? So what do we do on that one? Well, just like an old TV, you kick it. Just use your foot and kick the side of the accelerator. Sometimes it's something that's hung up, snagged, or caught. And if that's a problem, that little kick may loosen it up. All right. But if that doesn't take care of the problem, then start applying your brakes. Now, here's the awesome thing. Your brakes are like the grade school bully, and your gas is like the anemic child with a breathing condition. Right? The brakes will be able to completely shut down your accelerator no matter how hard your accelerator is trying to outperform the brakes. However, it does take a lot longer to come to that full stop. Okay? So you want to choose your escape path as you're braking, move yourself into position, and then once you are off the roadway, shift the vehicle into neutral and turn off the ignition, okay? Because we don't want to have to fight our brakes. That could increase the stopping distance up to a couple miles. We don't want to have to do that or fight the accelerator with our brakes. So once you've used the brakes to get you somewhere safe without going at crazy speed, shut off the engine. Shift to neutral, turn the car off, and get somewhere safe. Come to a complete stop, right? Because fighting the accelerator is going to definitely increase that stopping distance dramatically. Now, high heels. Folks, I mentioned to y'all that we expect y'all to wear sensible shoes, sneakers, when driving with us, right? I keep my sensible shoes in my vehicle, and anytime I'm teaching a driver's ed lesson, I will be wearing sensible shoes. Now, I do personally drive in chanclas, but I've also been driving for 20 plus years, right? So, I have the experience to know what to do in the event of a, oh my God, right? Y'all are still new, y'all are still learning. We will not allow you to wear high heels when you drive with us, right? You should not wear high heels when you drive independently. Why? Because this is a foot pressing the brake. Okay, you see that fluid, nice easy movement? Put a high heel on, and now you're having to move the whole leg to get that same action in because your pivot point has changed dramatically because of that heel. Okay? So wearing high heels, and that's boots. Like if you got on some kicker boots and they got a nice little 2-inch heel on them, those are still high heels, gentlemen. This is not just targeting ladies. I got a pair of Cuban heels that I used to wear while dancing. I haven't gone dancing in a while. But those had a 3-inch heel on them, all right? Can't wear those while driving. They change the pivot point. They make it harder to smoothly accelerate and brake, so should not be worn while attempting to drive. If you show up to a driving lesson in high heels, I will very quickly, or the other instructor will very quickly ask you if you have another pair of shoes in the car. If the answer is no, we may direct you to the Big Lots if you were here early, because we will not drive you wearing high heels. We will not drive you wearing dress shoes or Western work, whatever kind of boots. If it's got that little outer lip on it, it's a no-no. Your Timberlands ain't gonna happen, right? Your Chucks, nope. No Harley Davidsons, no Don Cucos, no Ropers, nothing. No boots, no dress shoes. If you come and you just got out of ROTC, then please bring another pair of shoes with you. And I ain't gonna mind you wearing your Class A's or Class B's on a driving lesson, but I will not permit you to drive with me if you've got the shoes to match. Okay? And this is unilateral. No one is allowed to wear any kind of shoe that's got that heel or that lip around the shoe and take a driving lesson with us, because it's not safe. So one of the things that you have to do when you show up is wear sensible footwear. Sneakers, running shoes, tennis shoes, skateboarding shoes, those all work just fine. If you want to wear something super comfy and you're like, oh, I hate wearing shoes, you can wear a pair of Crocs as long as they have the restraining strap. We're fine with that, because that shoe's not going to come off your foot. It doesn't have a heel and it doesn't have that lip. Okay? Proper footwear while driving is super important while y'all are learning. And if you show up in the wrong shoes and do not have shoes to change into, nor do you have the inclination to go buy yourself a pair of shoes specifically for the driving task, we won't drive you and you'll incur a $40 no-show fee. This is serious. You forget your glasses, $40 no-show fee. You forget your permit, $40 no-show fee. You come wearing the wrong shoes, $40 no-show fee. You come dressed in a way that the driver is not comfortable, or the instructor is not comfortable going with you in, you may be charged a $40 no-show fee. All right, please show up, t-shirt, shorts, jeans, whatever, nothing low cut. Don't come like you're coming for the club. Guys, if you just finished with football practice and you smell, or ladies, if y'all just finished with athletics practice and you smell, please have the courtesy of taking a quick shower before you come deal with us, because we're going to be in a car with you. Right? We all want to be comfortable. Right? Now, shoes. We got shoes covered, right? Sensible shoes while driving. Okay, so engine failure. What do you do if your engine just stops? Okay, well, as we've told you, you can turn your vehicle off if you shift into neutral. You can also turn it back on. So the first thing you should do if your engine stops is shift into neutral, because if you don't, you could mess up the drive gear on the vehicle as your vehicle continues to roll. Okay, I don't know why the dramatic difference, but I'm guessing one is forcing it to do it, the other one is being propelled by the proper tiny explosions. So I'm guessing that's why there's such a big difference on how dramatic it can damage your vehicle. But shift to neutral to reduce that damage. Okay? Shift to neutral so that the vehicle is just rolling on its tires and the transmission and engine are not engaging. Now, once you've done that, you should already have your emergency lights on, because you're having an emergency. So get those suckers on the second it happens. Shift to neutral, move out of traffic, and you want to do so while you still have your momentum before you turn the car off, because your power steering goes off when you turn the car off, and that means that it's going to get hard to adjust the wheel when you're making your lane adjustments. Okay. Now, At high speeds, it's really like minimal, but once you get down to like 10 miles an hour, that's when things are super dramatic, and getting it to change direction takes a bit more muscle. Okay? So once you are out of traffic, attempt to restart the engine. From neutral, you can do so. If the engine turns on, fantastic. Signal, get back on the roadway, you're good to go. If it stays off, refuses to turn on, now we finish pulling over, raise the hood, open up your trunk if you've got one, or the camper, or the back of a tailgate, or the SUV tailgate. Just open the whole thing, not the doors, the front and back. Open all that up. I don't know why, but there's something about seeing a vehicle with like everything open and someone just standing there looking like hopeless that gets people to pull over. I was with a flat tire, or not a flat tire, my battery had died. I was having alternator issues, and my battery had died at a gas station, and I was like kind of close to the roadway, and I opened up the hood and I looked for my jumper cables and I couldn't find them, and someone offered to pass me current if I had jumper cables, but I didn't have them, and nobody stopped to help. That one person, I was asking them, and like, yeah, if you have cables, I'll give you a jump. And I was like, oh, I don't have cables, that's why I'm asking. And then I went and opened the back of my vehicle and looked again, thinking maybe I do have a set of jumper cables, and I just forgot I got them because I never had to use them. Wasn't the case. But when the thing was open on both ends, man, people started stopping. Someone like I saw them, like I was just like, what am I gonna do now? And I saw a car just like pull in. They weren't even in the turning lane. They got into the turning lane, and then they went across the street to get into the gas station, drove right up to me and asked me what kind of help I needed. And they helped me. They had jumper cables. They passed me current. We were there for like 5-10 minutes. They took off. My engine's running. Everything's, or no, it was a bad battery. Yeah, it was a bad battery. I had to get the engine to start, and the alternator carried me till I got it to the parts place. But they take off, and I'm about to go close everything up. You're just still letting it run, and someone else, hey, your stuff's open. Are you all right? Do you need some help? It's like, no, thank you so much. Somebody already stopped and gave me a hand. Okay, well, God bless you. Have a good day. And boom, they took off. And as soon as they were gone, here comes another person. Hey, I just saw that your freaking things are open. Are you okay? Do you need some jumper cables or something? And it was magical. Because when it was just my hood, it was like I had a sign that said, I will murder you if you stop and talk to me. And then I opened the back up, and it was like, me and Jesus really need you to give me a hand. And every good person showed up. So I don't know what it is. I don't know why, but open the trunk, open the front, and really show people you're in trouble, and they'll help. Right. Now, total steering failure. Okay. Well, there's no better example of Jesus take the wheel than total steering failure, unless, of course, you count my 60 seconds of sleep on the roadway. But somebody was driving. It wasn't me. All right. You have no control over the vehicle, period. It's going to go whatever direction it decides to go when you experience total steering failure. Well, what do? Well, we use our horn and flashers first and foremost. If you're experiencing an emergency, get those flashers on. Let other people know. This is a big one, so beep, 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 beep. Hit that horn, honk it, don't be afraid. Because if they don't see that your car is going crazy, well, then they may wind up getting hit by it. And the easiest thing they can do to get away from you is slow down, right? Hey. But use your horn and flashers. Since you have no control over the vehicle, look where your car is going. If you see that it's drifting off to the right, wait for it, keep using that horn and flashers, and then once you're to the right side of the road, that's when we'll start using the brake excessively. If you see that your car is weaving and not maintaining any direction at all, then just start for the stop. Once you start stopping, your vehicle's most likely going to pick a direction and lean to it. All right, if you go to the left, go to the wall if you have to. You're going to mess up your car, but we're trying to survive, okay, because we cannot control, all right? But you want to stop quickly without just like crazy emergency stopping, because we need to make sure that the others around us do get that, opportunity to get the heck away from us and not wind up crashing, okay? And then your parking brake, well, your regular brakes still work, folks, all right? So foot off the accelerator, start using your foot brake. All right, if your foot brake is not stopping you fast enough, do what we did last time. Pull the handbrake up slightly just until you feel it start to help the regular brakes, slowing your vehicle down faster. All right, but don't go straight to parking brake. First, use your foot brake, get off the accelerator, do everything you can to slow the vehicle down safely. Use the parking brake, the handbrake, only once you've gotten down to 20 miles an hour or less, or you need to like stop yesterday, or you're about to crash. Okay? Shift into neutral. This will quickly eat up power, cause you to lose momentum, slow you down faster. But use the movement of the vehicle. Judge where and how you want to do that. Because if your car is going off towards the left, towards a grassy field, or towards a grassy median, you're going to the left, maybe that's going to be the best place for you to like do that whole stopping thing. All right, but if your car is going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, or you've got cement barriers on either side of you and you know you're going to start bouncing any second, then yes, then in those situations we want to brake aggressively. Okay? Because we're just trying to minimize the collision. Don't give up on yourself. Don't give up on the driving. Don't do everything you can to use what control you do have to stop yourself in a safe way. Okay? And if you do wind up stopped in the middle of the frickin' road and your vehicle is still pointed in the direction to get you off the road, ease up off the brake, put it back into drive, and see if the car continues to move in that direction. Get yourself out of position. If it's not doing that, if that's not an option, then stay there, call 911 because you need help. Because a car stuck in the middle of the road is going to cause one of two things. Either a traffic jam or a massive collision. We're hoping the traffic jam is all you have to deal with, right? But the longer you're out there by yourself, the more likely it's going to turn into a collision, right? Now, power steering failure. I just mentioned, you want to make sure that you turn your steering wheel while your vehicle's still on. When you have that accelerator malfunction, because the power steering is tougher to turn when the vehicle's off. Well, if you try turning the steering wheel when the car is off, that's no power steering and all the weight of the vehicle on you. All right, so that is very hard, very tough, and it takes quite a bit of muscle to get those wheels to turn. All right. Now, if your power steering becomes unavailable, it's because your engine has died, your power steering fluid is low, or the drive belt, that little serpentine belt that connects all that awesome stuff to your engine that gives you all those little extra features like air conditioning, self-renewing battery, things like that. If that breaks, then your power steering is not going to work either, right? Well, if the engine dies while we're still moving quickly, we want to adjust our position, because the faster your vehicle is moving, the easier the power steering is going to be to make adjustments on, okay? Because your steering is still going to work, it just takes more force. Okay? Do not make your adjustments going low speed. Try to make your adjustments going while you're still moving relatively quickly, and then once you're in a safe spot, then slow down and get those final adjustments in. And it is going to get progressively harder, so just hold on tight. Okay? Now, power steering fluid, if your vehicle still takes that, a lot of vehicles have transitioned to electronic power steering, which is awesome, but if yours doesn't have that, it's just another fluid you have to keep track of. A good way to tell if it's low is every time you go to make a turn, your car sounds kind of like it's screaming like a pig off to slaughter. If you're hearing that noise, specifically when you turn the steering wheel, you are low on power steering fluid. I have yelled this to other drivers on the roadway, like, you're low on power steering fluid, as they drive by and I hear their car squealing that way, because it's that easy to tell what's wrong. Right? It is a very plain and obvious problem to identify. Okay? So if you hear that when you're making the adjustments on your steering wheel, your power steering fluid's low, make sure you top that off, because if you don't have enough, then it takes extra strength to get that wheel turned. Right? But regardless, if that happens, you need to get off the roadway while still moving, because the second you've come to a stop or you're down to like 5 or 10 miles an hour, it's going to take a lot more muscle to get that wheel adjusted. You're not going to be able to make no lane change effectively going at that speed with no power steering fluid. Okay? Now, loss of vision. What do you do if your hood pops up like this? Well, this is only going to happen if your secondary lock is disengaged when you start driving, or if you disengage it while driving. So whenever you open your hood, always make sure that it clicks and locks into that second lock, and then reach into the gap and like tug up a little bit. Try to get it to come up, and if it doesn't move, perfect, it locked in place. Sometimes it will pop right back up, that means it didn't fully lock. Press it down firmly again and hear the click. Okay. But what do you do if your hood flies up? Well, you see that little arch on the front of or on the bottom of the hood? That's there on purpose. All right. If it comes up partially like this, you slouch down, look underneath that crack, signal to the right, and start honking, beep, 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 beep. Let the other people know that this could go, badly very quickly. Pull off to the right side of the road, close your hood, proceed. Okay. Now, simple, right? Well, if it flies back and shatters your windshield and completely folds back, well, closing it's no longer an option, and just driving off after you close it isn't an option because your windshield is broken. Now you have to do what I like to call Ace Ventura it. Now, if you've never seen the movie Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, how much time have you wasted on life? You need to get on that, folks. No, it's a great Jim Carrey movie. Real funny, real ridiculous, real over the top. But there's this awesome scene in the beginning where some dude just like shatters his windshield because he's recovering the pet from the ex-husband to take it to the wife. And, or the ex-boyfriend, take it to the ex-girlfriend, whatever it was. But when he's doing this dude destroys his window, so he spends the rest of the movie driving like this. This is his window, his head is out, his arm is out, and he's just looking like that. And that's what you have to do. If the windshield gets shattered by the hood flying up and just completely breaking the windshield, you won't be able to see through it. So now you stick your head out the window and you steer that way, and same procedure. Move off to the right side of the road, park to the right, and this time you will need a tow, you will need help. Okay? Be careful, right? Now, loss of vision due to headlight failure. Well, first and foremost, I give this person an A for effort, but an F in application, because that flashlight would be like a high beam, and it's just completely unacceptable. The second thing that's not acceptable, that little orange bulb closest to the F, that's just above the flashlight that you can see there in the image, needs to have a housing around it, otherwise it's also not in compliance, right? We're not allowed to just kind of make up fixes to try to get around problems. If something like this happens, you won't be able to drive your car at night, right? Without that proper turn signal cover, you won't be able to drive your car during the day without using your hand signals, all right? So keep that in mind, folks. Now, if you do have headlight failure, though, turn on your right signal to light up an escape path or hit the emergency lights, and it'll still continually flash the one on the right side, and it'll be lighting up the side of the road. You're just using the turn signals or emergencies to let the other drivers know if you're sharing the roadway. But you're using the turn signal as a intermediate light to help you get off the roadway as you slow down, come to that safe stop on the shoulder. Okay? And you'll just use that little burst of light to let you know when, you're already fully off the roadway. Okay? The emergencies are good too because you'll have the lights on both sides, and once you cross over completely, you'll be able to see that white line is to your left because that left light is coming on as well. All right? But yeah, if your headlights go out while you're driving, do that, get off the roadway, right? I carry spare bulbs for everything in my car, okay? The only one that I keep two of in there, though, are my headlights. Because if one headlight goes out, well, you can replace the one. But if two headlights go out, well, you need to replace the two before you can drive. And I don't want to have to do the two Uber thing to get to an AutoZone to get a light, or maybe even there isn't an opportunity to do so because it's late at night. So a little bit more expenditure. Buy an extra turn signal from the colored bulbs, from the non-colored bulb, and have extra headlight tubes. I mean, they're not big, they're not that expensive, and having them in your vehicle already means that you can go from I can't drive to I can drive in 5 minutes. Because installation on those things is pretty easy. You can ask Mr. Googly how to do that. Good old Goog, he seems to know everything. People rely on him real hard. But his buddy Utah, he's got tons of videos he can show you, and they teach you how to do everything on his website. Or I'm sorry, it's Tubey, YouTube. I think he's Asian, maybe French. I don't know. But seriously, Google and YouTube will tell you how to replace any light, any bulb, any fuse. They can help you fix little problems that will save you money and keep you from having to go to a mechanic or rely on someone to come rescue you. Okay, the more independent you can be when it comes to your car and its general repairs, when it comes to the little things, the better you're going to be off, because you feel great when you're like, haha, I had a problem and I fixed it. Didn't have to call mom, didn't have to call dad, didn't have to call AAA. It was all me. Yeah, that kind of swagger, that makes you feel good when you're dealing with your car. So learn your car. Learn how to maintain your car, because lights are going to go out eventually, folks. Now, we do have problems with loss of vision due to covered windshield and splashed windshield. Well, a covered windshield is like the one on the little blue car. All right, there is something all over the windshield. Mud, more common down in the valley than anything else. But we also have issues with snow. If you live in other places in the world, country, whatever. All right. If your windshield is covered, it is your responsibility to remove everything from the windshield and your headlights and turn signals before you continue on. So if you love to go mudding on the weekends, keep a couple extra gallons of water in your vehicle and some Windex for that windshield. The Windex and actual washer fluid will help get that stuff off faster, even though it's just mud, because it does. The alcohol base helps get that stuff cleaner faster, all right? But it's your responsibility to take all this stuff off before you even start driving, all right? If an officer of the law sees you with a license plate that's illegible due to mud, ice, or snow, or sees you like that with a blocked headlight or blocked headlights and most of your windshield blocked, they're gonna pull you over, and it's not gonna be one ticket. It's gonna be and then. I can think of 5 to give you for driving like that. Okay, and that's just off the top of my head because I don't know the penal code as well as a person that's actively working law enforcement. I just know it as well as someone who spent way too much time at the PD, in a good way. All right, and then the other problem we have is splashed windshield. All right, well, with proper use of the Smith system and zone control system, you can keep yourself out of these troubles. All right, if you see that up ahead on the road, there's an area where whenever a car drives through it, it throws a huge wave of water onto the cars next to them. Well, awesome. Position yourself either ahead of the vehicle that's going to hit that so that you're not in the splash zone, or far enough behind that vehicle that's about to hit that so that the water goes up and down and then you drive through. Okay? That's it. That's all you got to do is make sure that they're not in the zone that would be required for you to get splashed. If they are too close, just drop back. That's it. Make sure that another driver isn't about to fill that same zone though. Okay? But it's easy. Just don't put yourself in the situation to get splashed, and you won't. Right? Sometimes we can't help it, like we're at a stoplight and the vehicle comes up and splashes us. That can cause problems too. I actually had a car die because that broke the distributor cap, and then the mechanics that I took it to, because my mechanics were sick and unavailable, they basically left my hood open during a thunderstorm and then closed up the engine, or with the engine block opened up, because they couldn't figure out the problem. And it took me like 2 minutes once I got there and realized, oh, well, aside from my engine being seized, my distributor cap shattered, or broke when that water hit it. So I lost that car because of this. So, be smart, all right? If it's raining that bad, if there's that much water on the roadway, stay home, all right? Now, vehicle fires. All right, there's 2 kinds of vehicle fires. There's vehicle fires that happen in the engine compartment, and there are vehicle fires that happen in the passenger compartment. All right, engine compartment is where most fires are because there's oil, there's plastics, there's heat, there's hot metal, and passenger compartment is smokers, right? When you have a fire in the passenger compartment, 90% of the time, 99% of the time, it's because someone threw out a cigarette and it came back in, or the ember fell off their cigarette, stuff like that. All right. Now, never try to extinguish an engine compartment fire with anything other than a fire extinguisher. The passenger compartment, because it's got a predictable source, I've dropped a cigarette back when I smoked, and my morning coffee took a hit and kept my car from catching fire. Right? Sometimes you got to make those choices. I had to have the carpet shampooed and all that fun stuff, but I did not turn myself into the Human Torch. So I was quite pleased with that. Now, how do fire extinguishers work? Well, let me first and foremost go get. No, can't watch that video. Let me first and foremost go get our extinguisher, and I'll teach you. Now, our old receptionist, Luis, and I have something in common. We both keep an ABC fire extinguisher in our vehicle. He did it because he was a firefighter, and I did it because on a couple of occasions, a fire extinguisher would have been something handy to have. I'm sure people like Jackie that got barbecued in a car would have been super happy to see someone show up with an extinguisher. Okay, they're also really awesome for breaking windows in the event of other kinds of emergencies because they got a lot of nice weight to them. All right, but first and foremost, folks. All right, this is, and here, let me switch to the big screen so y'all can see it. All right, there we go. I done fail. All right, so this is an ABC extinguisher. All right, A is trash and wood stuff. B is fuel, could be like melted plastic, gasoline, kerosene, and C is electrical. Well, in the engine compartment, you have all three of those ignition sources. Okay? You have the potential for trash, you have the potential for an electrical fire, and you definitely have the potential for a propellant fire, for some chemical is burning fire. All right? Now, fire extinguishers work awesomely because they work in three parts. Okay? Because fire needs three things to survive. It needs heat. Needs oxygen, and it needs fuel. That's it. All right. Well, engine compartment, there are a lot of plastics, a lot of oils, a lot of things like that that will burn, so there is plenty of fuel. Okay. And heat, well, I mean, fire hot. So fire is kind of one of those systems that once enough heat is generated to start a fire, the fire very quickly builds up and increases that heat to points where it's easy to maintain it. Okay. The way an ABC extinguisher works, though, is it's kind of awesome because A, it blasts out compressed carbon dioxide. That's the stuff we breathe out. And the stuff that helps kill fires. So we deny oxygen to the fire by aiming. You take the hose. Now, first you're going to just pull the pin. Pap. This will break, come off. And then you take this hose. And you aim this end, the shooty end, at the base of the fire. Don't aim at the flames. The flames aren't the important part. It's the stuff that's actually burning that's important. You aim it at the base of the fire, and then you're going to sweep. Boom, 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 boom. Now your other hand is going to be up here and squeezing this down while you do that. And you aim at the base of the flames and then stop. Anywhere that you see the flames start to rise again, target that area specifically, go after that some more. Okay, do that until the fire is extinguished or your extinguisher is spent. Okay, but the compressed CO2 is going to displace the oxygen. It's going to push it away, and now boom, fire extinguisher is done its job because fire needs three things to survive, and it's provided a means of stopping the oxygen. All right, well that's one. Two, compressed carbon dioxide is cold. All right, so if it was a hot surface that ignited, say, a piece of plastic from some wires, the temperature is going to get pushed down hard by that compressed CO2. That's why that gas was chosen. And it's going to help reduce those temperatures and help combat the fire that way. The third way that it does it is actually denying fuel and oxygen at the same time because there's also an inert dust. This stuff does not burn. It's if you've ever seen the movies, you'll see like they get blasted and they're covered in like white stuff because that's what it is. It's white stuff that's in there. It's this white powder that will not burn. Some of them have a white foam that will not burn. Right? And it's non-conductive. It's not gonna continue the fire. Okay. Well, that white dust puts a layer over it, and now that layer of dust is blocking oxygen from getting to the fuel source. And it's preventing the fuel source from being exposed to the flames because flames ride on top of fuel. Okay, vaporifics is this weird study of what happens when materials vaporize due to heat. Plastics, that's how they burn. Like if you ever look at a candle, the flame is on the wick, but it's just above the wax, but it's actually the wax vapor that's burning. Go figure, right? Okay. So fire extinguishers deny oxygen by blasting CO2. Deny heat because compressed CO2 is colder than a mug. All right. And then they prevent the fuel heat and oxygen from all coming together by laying down that blanket of white stuff. All right? And just having one in your car can mean the difference for individuals like Jackie that need it. Or maybe even you have something heavy enough to shatter a window in the event of an emergency. Or maybe you have something heavy enough to shatter someone else's window in the event of an emergency and then be able to put out a fire that's starting up around their legs, right? It's simple. They're like $13, $14. Now this is a not necessary for typical use, but I've also had to use a fire extinguisher on my own car. My alternator caught fire. I lit a cigarette off of it. I was like, I need a tow. And then it just kind of kept burning as more stuff started to go, and now, and I went and got my extinguisher and put it out before it became a real problem. Because stopping the problem early is the easiest way to take care of it. Waiting until your car is fully engulfed, well, doesn't matter how big the extinguisher is. Once your car is like the way that one in that bottom picture is, well, yeah, it's a little bit late. But having an extinguisher on hand can help prevent it from getting to that point. All right? And now, stalls on railroad tracks. Now, I've told you multiple times, nobody beats the train. Back in January, a 92-year-old man lost his life, not on the first set, not on the second set, but on the third set of tracks. He attempted to cross in rapid succession. That train caught him. That's it, his life was over. And that guy had people that loved him. He was 92. You do not make it to 92 without at least one person thinking you are amazing. Right? That's plain and simple. Hey. So nobody beats the train. So what happens? Well, if you have a stall on a railroad track, try and restart your vehicle if no train is coming. Ask your passengers to get out, shift into neutral, and attempt to push the car off the tracks. If you can't move your car, run. Now, in which direction should you run? Should you run towards or away from the train? Well, my buddy, this cup here, has been helping me demonstrate this for the last 9 months, and I've broken it a couple times. But the reason that it's a great example is this. Here's your train. Here's your car. Notice how your car went that way? Well, when the train actually hits your car, it's going to knock your car into about 200-300 pieces. Your car will no longer be your car. It will now be the debris field. And the debris field will be traveling at roughly 1.25 times the speed of the train, because the train has all that mass and it hits it, and it's just like when you hit a baseball with a baseball bat, you can get some extra distance out of it. All right, so we want to run in the direction that the train would be coming, because the debris field is going to be launched in the direction the train is going. And if you run in that same direction, your own license plate could final destination you, could just end your life. Okay? It's rare for stuff like that to happen, obviously, but it does happen when trains hit vehicles, right? So you run towards the train, and I've already told you why. And so here's some videos. Train versus cherry picker.
Oh my
train.
God!
Didn't even slow down because he couldn't. Well, that's $100 worth of ramen that we'll never do.
There goes the train.
Oh, damn!
Oh God!
Oh!
That was not good. Hopefully nobody was in the semi.
Alright, back. I'm gonna restart this. There we go. Alright, there we go. Play.
Oh my God! Tell me.
truck attached to that.
Oh,
But the train
damn!
sheared the trailer right off on this one.
Oh God,
Oh,
that was not good. Hopefully nobody was in the semi.
Hopefully.
damn.
There it is. We actually see this one from a few angles. There's one.
Damn.
And look, it's dragging that 18-wheeler like a little puppy.
Wow.
Like nothing.
Holy.
And here's another angle on that exact same crash. There it is. There's that log truck. Here comes the train. And then, and see all that debris flying in the same direction as the train. That's why we run in the opposite direction. And this is just a good old-fashioned wheel. The momentum on the train is so massive and it does do well. A lot of times the cars keep going. This guy's going like 5-6 miles an hour.
Kom genom ett
Still
under skadades inte den här
takes that 18-wheeler
lastbilschauffören.
like nothing. Another one. This train has gone off the tracks, and as the sections slide down, it drags other portions down, but the momentum from the back end is still moving the cars forward. Yep. And it keeps going. And then Mother Nature versus the creation. Not swift enough.
I can't believe this actually happening.
And then this is the one that like my heart would have stopped on because the engineer, this is their perspective, and that is a fuel trailer, or a fuel booth. Oh, thank you. You explain. Because that's like an 18-wheeler full of gas coming at you.
It looks as if the truck is in the clear, but the line of cars backed up at the traffic light forces it to stop
And then this one happens. Don't pull
as a
forward unless you know you
118-car
have the
freight
fuel.
train bears down.
Because that train not only hit that 18-wheeler, but all the parts that came with it also got involved in that collision. Here's the conductor's view of that log train. Oh, look at that. That one log is throwing like
99 miles an hour.
And that's
trailer
where
is
my
sheared
Amazon
off and
package was late
pulverized.
that day. More ramen, never gonna get eaten. Oh, school bus. No. Not any kind of school bus got pushed over. There you go, more Amazon packages on the side of the road. And that last one, that was just someone trying to beat the train. And as you saw, they did not beat the train. And if law enforcement had seen them attempting that, and they had made it through, they would have so gotten tickets. So, folks, when we say don't try to beat the train, we mean it very seriously. Do not try to beat the train, right? And that sheep at the end is just perfect. Hey, so driving off the roadway or driver error. Now, sometimes we're driving and we're having a conversation with someone, we're not looking where we're going, or we're checking our phone and we're not looking where we're going, or we're adjusting the radio and we're not looking where we're going. And then the road does something unexpected, like, I don't know, not bending when we thought it was going to, or maybe it does curve just a little bit, and we go off the roadway. Well, now we've got 2 tires on pavement, 2 tires running on God knows what, and we're in a little bit of trouble because those tires are all going to have different levels of traction because 2 of those tires are rolling on stuff that is perfect for rolling on and offers maximum traction. 2 of them are rolling on grass, which is God's slip and slide, all right, which is just a bad material to be on because grass could have mud, soft dirt underneath, all kinds of things that just don't offer lots of traction when we're trying to drive. So if this happens to you, Once again, you've gone off the roadway, we're having an emergency, both hands, hold the wheel firmly, take your foot off the gas. Do not hit the brakes. Why? Because the tires on the side, on the paved side, are going to brake much better than the ones on the non-paved side. That could cause you to immediately spin out. That could cause you to hook back onto the roadway and collide with another vehicle or wind up getting T-boned by a vehicle coming behind you. So yeah, we cannot hit the brakes quickly in this situation. You want to straddle the roadway, and if you don't have control of your vehicle, you shouldn't be turning the steering wheel. All right, if the car feels like it's slipping and sliding, just hold it straight, no foot on the gas, no foot on the brake, and just let your car slow down naturally. Okay. Now, once your vehicle is down to about 20 miles an hour, or you come up onto something level and even that you can try to do this, you want to find a good spot where the roadway is level and it's going to be easy for you to hop back onto the road. All right, you're going to signal, you're going to check your mirrors and your blind spot, and then if and only if you're going like 20 miles an hour or less, where you have maximum traction because it's low speed, then you want to sharply turn your steering wheel in the direction you need your car to move, and then counter steer to straighten out quickly and stay within your lane. Right? This maneuver in its entirety is dangerous, and when you go to make that adjustment, you could lose control because you're still working with two different levels of traction on either half of the vehicle. Right? And the sad thing is that it can turn you that way more off the road or that way more onto the road, but not at an angle that you want to be, not under control, right? So we need to be careful, okay? We need to try to minimize the occurrence of this. We just don't put ourselves in a position where we let this happen, but when it does, we need to make sure that we're going nice and slow before we try to hop back onto the roadway to stay safe, okay? And this is the only time where you do that lane change that you see in the movies where they're like, and they're just back, because when you do that while driving normally, you run a very high risk of losing control. A lane change should be like a smooth drift, and when you straighten out your steering wheel, the turn signal shouldn't even turn back on, okay? Or it shouldn't turn off. You should have to manually turn it off on a lane change. All right, for this one though, you're signaling. Once you straighten out that wheel, that signal's gonna go off on its own because you're gonna have a dramatic turn to the wheel. That's why we need to make sure that we're going slow. The slower you're going when you do this, the safer you are. If you have to stop and wait for traffic to clear up before you can do this, do that. Don't try to jump ahead of traffic that's still coming at you full speed. Okay? And then roadway hazards. Well, we got potholes, sharp curves, and objects in the road. Right? For potholes, obviously we want to avoid them if possible. If not, slow down to as slow as you can without getting hit by vehicles coming from behind to prevent tire damage. All right, and try to predict where the pothole is going to be the most shallow and try to hit the pothole at that point so that you have the least risk of your tire, your rim, or any of that assembly altogether getting damaged. A deep enough pothole and you going fast enough can rip the tire right off your car along with a wheel assembly hub, rupture PVC joints, tear the tie rod, set your vehicle out of alignment, and now you've got like $1,500 worth of stuff just to make your car be able to go again. Okay, so take them seriously. Take them slow. Okay. Sharp curves, brake gently as you enter. Halfway through, look ahead and start to accelerate gently. Plain and simple on a sharp curve, once your vehicle's pointed in the direction you want to go again, that's when we accelerate. As you're approaching the curb, we slow down to a safe speed, take the curve, and accelerate after we're already going the direction we want to go. Right? For objects in the road, this will be like maybe an animal, a trash bag, a box. You want to check for traffic and decide whether you can straddle to go over it or you can swerve around it. All right, if there's like a couple weeks ago, I drove over a sheet of drywall. What did I choose to do? I straddled it. I just went over it because it was drywall. I didn't see any nails on it, and I've got a pretty good eye for that sort of stuff. So, you know, everything was fine and dandy. All right. A few weeks ago, there was a cardboard box that was like 2 feet by 2 feet by 2 feet on the expressway. For that one, I changed lanes. I turned on my emergencies and I changed lanes to let the driver behind me know, hey, something up ahead's coming up. Careful. And they were looking and they changed lanes and they changed lanes. But as the cars kept coming, it kept getting closer and closer to the box before people were changing lanes because people aren't always looking. All right. And then Sometimes we think we can drive over something and it'll be fine. Oh, it's a plastic bag. What's the worst that could happen? Well, the worst that could happen is that plastic bag could be wrapped around, I don't know, an old lawnmower engine. One day I was driving, and on the side of the road, like halfway into my lane, was a box that said "Free Puppies," and my heart just dropped out of my chest, and my conscience was like, "You mother! If you hit that, I'm gonna kill you," because like just everything in me was like, "No, this box must not be hit by my car. My conscience cannot handle the notion that I obliterated puppies in a box." So I swerved around it. I handed my fiance my phone. I'm like, "Here, call 911. Call the police department for mission. Get the number off of Google. Let them know that this box is here and that it says free puppies. Because if there are puppies, somebody needs to come rescue them, and now, right?" For me, that was like the scariest thing that I could encounter, because I honestly was thinking there were going to be puppies in there, so I was not going to hit that box, right? But the thing is that sometimes it looks innocuous. It looks like it's not going to be a big deal, and it becomes a big deal. All right, so straddling, you really need to make sure that your vehicle is going to be high enough to get over something and that there's nothing that could potentially get you. Now, if you have to hit it, that's a last resort. But that still does mean you're going to have to get it out before you can continue on your way if it gets stuck. On a driving lesson, a young lady hit a garbage bag. And, fortunately, my boss was doing a ride-along on that one, checking me out to see how I was doing. And I was like, "Hey, buddy, well, I ain't got no medical insurance. Why don't you go into there and yank that out, hopefully no cracked needles in the bag." And he was fine, but we never know, right? So try to steer around, because if you don't have traffic coming in the opposite direction and you can get around an obstacle in the roadway, it's much better to do that than to try to drive over it when you're not sure. And never hit something under the assumption that my car will be fine, right? Because not necessarily. Sometimes you'll hit something and cause no damage, even though it should have, like that time a Halloween ran out in front of my Firebird. Whole side of the car came off the ground. Everything was fine. All he did was break the piece of plastic on the front end. Another time, I saw a vehicle hit a box that had fallen out of the truck ahead of it, and the box was full of sand, and the vehicle got totaled by it. By a cardboard box, about 1.5 feet by 1.5 feet by 1.5 feet. I'm guessing it was like sand for a pool filter or something. Okay. Stuff happens. Be careful. Okay. And then vehicles in deep water. Here's the situation. You're on your way to the island and the bridge collapses as you're driving over. Don't think that it could happen? It has. Okay. During my lifetime, the Queen Isabella Causeway was struck by a boat, and people went into the water and drowned because they didn't know what to do. Okay. Your car's down in water. What do you do? Well, we're going to watch a brief video. I do just want to mention a couple things before we do. One, if you do have that fire extinguisher in your car, a fire extinguisher is a dandy way to break a window. They got a nice amount of mass, and they can break a window. Okay, but if you'd like to buy yourself a window breaker, there are lots of options available on Amazon for less than $5. There's like a little hammer one that you can put on your keychain. My favorite, though, is like a little box with a little slot in it, and you push in this little plastic dart, put that up to the glass, press the button, the dart gets launched and shatters the glass. Kind of like what the original Boba Fett toy was going to be like. I thought that was a really neat little invention, and they work really effectively. Because the problem is that even when you have a good implement, there's this really hilarious news article where a reporter is trying to talk about how easy it is to break into a car by smashing the window, and he hits that window like 9 times, and it just does not want to break. And this is a no-pressure situation. He's just trying to get the shot for the news report, and it wound up on a news report blooper reel because he just could not get that thing to break. And then the whole window finally just drops and shatters once it's completely inside the car door. Ridiculousness. All right? Having the right tool to help break a window in the event of immersion, in the event that your car is in water, can mean the difference between life and death. All right? And then the other thing I'm going to mention is they mention that follow the bubbles to tell which way to swim. Following the bubbles is definitely going to tell you which way is up, which way to oxygen, but you want to make sure you stay out of the bubble stream, because swimming in water works because we displace more water weight than what our body takes up in space. Okay? And that means we're lighter than the environment around us, and we go up. Same principle that hot air balloons work on. right? We displace more than our own mass, and so now we float. Fantastic. Problem is that when there are bubbles in the water, when there is a stream of bubbles coming out of a vehicle that's submerging or a boat that's sinking, those bubbles will work like quicksand, and instead of displacing water, now you're displacing those bubbles, which definitely weigh less than you do, okay? Square inch for square inch, water is heavier than you are unless you are super thin, all right? Anyone with over 3% body fat weighs less than their volume in water. Okay, that's why chimpanzees can't swim, because they have less than 3% body fat. All right. So instead of swimming or following the bubble stream, swim in the same direction but away from the stream. So now here's the video.
How to escape from a sinking car. In order to survive in an extreme situation, you'd better make sure you know what to do in advance. After all, when it's crunch time, you might only have seconds to act. There are two very important steps in this unfortunate situation. As soon as the car makes contact with the water, unfasten your seatbelt and roll down the window as fast as you can. Once you've done that, immediately vacate the car through the open window before the vehicle becomes submerged. And that's basically it if there are no unexpected problems. Remember that you'll only have about a minute to complete these two steps before the car sinks completely underwater. Do not waste time trying to open the door. It simply will not budge because of the force of the water pressing on it from the outside. Memorize the sequence. Unfasten the seatbelt, lower the window, climb out of the car. It's your only chance of survival. A crank window will give you the best means of escape. But here's a promising fact. According to test results, a car's electronics continue to function for at least 10 minutes after it becomes submerged. So, if you have power windows, you can still get out. Now, let's look at some possible hiccups you might encounter. If you can't get the window to roll down, break it. The quicker you react, the better. Don't even try breaking the windshield. It's made of extra strong, crash-resistant triplex safety glass. There are actually tons of online shops that offer special car window breaking tools at affordable prices. So just look it up on the internet, buy one, and keep it in your car. Another option is to use some heavy object with a pointed tip like a hammer, wrench, or heavy screwdriver. If you don't have any of these, you can use a stiletto heel or simply your elbow. If your car seats have removable headrests, you can also use the metal prongs at the end of those. Aim your blows at the corners of the window where the glass is weaker. If there are children in the car, make sure to shove them out ahead of yourself. In fact, experts recommend the following plan of action. First, unbuckle your seatbelt and lower your window. Only after your window is open should you help your children. In the case of just one child, unfasten their seatbelt and push them out ahead of you. If there are several children, help them from oldest to youngest. Once you've gotten your kids out, leave the car yourself. Older children are first since they can potentially help the younger ones. That way, everybody gets out safely. If you absolutely can't get out through the window, wait until the car fills completely with water and then open the door. It seems like the craziest and scariest thing ever, but it works. Waiting for some time will allow the pressure inside and outside the car to equalize. Experts recommend keeping a firm grip on the door handle while the water fills the inside. When the inside and outside pressures equal out, take a deep breath of the last bit of air, open the door, and swim out. Remember that the door will not open easily. You may have to push it with your feet, so be ready for that. Follow the air bubbles to find your way to the surface. When you've successfully gotten out of your car, you can easily become disoriented underwater. This is because the water around the sinking car gets murky and clouded. It could also simply be due to pure fear and panic. To find your way out, swim in the same direction as the rising air bubbles. They will lead you to the surface. Now, let's go through the two-step survival plan once again. As soon as the car hits the water, unfasten your seatbelt. roll down or break the window, and get out as quickly as you can. Let's hope that you'll never actually have to put the knowledge to use, but it's always better to be safe than sorry, isn't it?
Right. And it's just simple, basic advice and easy steps to follow. All right. Now, sometimes you will have no choice in the matter. You are going to crash into something. Okay? If you had to choose between a cement barrier and a tree, which one should you choose? Okay. Well, now we can use just a little bit of logic. Just a little bit of logic. Figure this out. Now, the barriers and stuff were put on the roadway on purpose. Trees are these awesome things that can survive hurricanes and tornadoes and things like that. As big as a tree is above the ground, it is also as large below the ground due to the root system. For a tree to grow 100 feet tall, the roots got to be 100 feet deep. And for, well, at least half that. So that means that a tree is very firmly, very solidly grounded. All right. However, the safety devices that they put around the roadway are intentionally made to help with collisions. So the correct answer would be the cement barrier. All right. Even though cement might seem worse, those barriers are designed to absorb the impact of the crash, sometimes tip over and help stop you faster. Okay. Trees are rooted deep down into the ground and will not be easily moved. All right, y'all remember the egg video where he I'm going to throw this egg with the same velocity at both of these and see the difference. And the first one, that's the tree. No give. It's going to stop you right then and there, full force experience. Those cement barriers, on the other hand, are designed to move, to shift, and to absorb that impact for you and help minimize the collision. All right, do not give up. All right. When you see that you are going to have a collision, always aim for the safety devices. Do not give up on yourself. Giving up on yourself is essentially selecting death. We don't want to do that. All right? And steer for something soft if possible. All right? If your choices are, I'm going to drive through a whole bunch of little young trees, or I'm going to hit a guardrail, that guardrail is probably going to do a better job stopping you. All right? The younger trees are, well, they're young trees. They're going to slow you down, damage your vehicle, and eventually stop you. All right, folks. And if you have to choose, am I going to go off-road and into somebody's field or attempt to force myself back onto the roadway, the field is the better option, folks. It's easier to fix a little bit of fence than it is to fix your car after two other vehicles hit you because you're not going as fast as they are on the roadway. All right. So when you come to that situation where you see the accident is going to happen, do not give up on yourself. Always aim for the safety devices. Keep control of your vehicle. And just before impact, I know this sounds counterintuitive. This sounds like the opposite of what you want to do. But right before you crash, relax everything but your grip on the steering wheel. Just slump into your seat. Go limp. Why? Because intoxicated people survive crashes all the time because they don't have time to brace themselves for the crash. When you brace yourself, you're trying to prevent yourself from moving. Problem is that your body can't handle no 15,000 pounds of force. But that's what you're trying to stop. Okay? You lock your arms ahead of you, well, your arms are going to open up anyway as you crash forward because there's no way that your arms are going to stop you. You could wind up breaking your arms, tearing muscles, ligaments, damaging your joints. So instead of trying to brace yourself for impact, right before a collision, try to go limp. That way you can bounce and roll and rattle with the crash instead of trying to fight against it and hurting yourself. You're still going to wind up suffering some body damage, but it's going to be a lot less than if you're sitting there bracing yourself for impact. Trust me. All right. Then head-on collisions. All right. Brake hard, but do not lock up your tires. Blow your horn and your flashers. Steer right towards the shoulder. Do not steer left. Why? Because if they swerve before they hit you, they are most likely to swerve to their right, thinking that they're driving properly. You're left. If you go to the right and they go to the right, nobody hits. Last video.
It's a terrifying experience.
Oh my God!
A wrong-way driver coming straight at you on a highway. Watch this white SUV.
What is he doing?
It's flying down a Florida highway the wrong way. Then, tragedy.
Oh my God!
In an instant, the drunk SUV driver was killed, along with these 4 University of Southern Florida students in the other car, including Danny Yasudas. His brother Jeremy says it's hard to look at the bone-chilling video.
Every time I watch it, I kind of yell out, screaming like, oh no, turn the other way.
This isn't an isolated case. These headlines are just from the last month. There are 300 to 400 wrong-way driving deaths every year in the United States. Why so many? Sometimes the drivers are confused.
Oh my God!
Look at this vehicle barreling down I-95 outside Philadelphia. The 84-year-old woman driving just narrowly misses oncoming vehicles. She told police she had no idea she was going the wrong way. This 83-year-old man is flying the wrong way down a highway. You just know how this is going to end.
Oh my God!
Somehow, he survived. The vast majority of wrong-way driving incidents, however, are the result of drunk drivers.
I'd give anything to hold her again.
Gary Catronio, who lost his 21-year-old daughter to a wrong-way drunk driver, is now on a mission to push officials to have new technology like this installed across the country. When a driver proceeds the wrong way, these signs light up.
Attention, the Blink Link system has detected a wrong-way driver.
Then an alarm sounds at a Florida command center. It's a race against time. A dispatcher sends the image of the wrong-way vehicle to the Florida Highway Patrol so they can intercept the vehicle.
We have a confirmed wrong-way driver.
Signs like these warn drivers of the danger. Your chances of surviving a wrong-way collision on the highway are slim. 2 cars running into each other at 40 miles per hour will almost always result in fatalities. So is there anything you can do to avoid a wrong-way driver? First, stay extra alert when driving between the hours of 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. That's when you're most likely to encounter a drunk driver. Also, remember these words. Stay right at night. Wrong-way drivers tend to drive in the left lane. If you see a car barreling towards you, try to pull off to the shoulder. Once the car has safely passed, call 911, just like this guy did.
The car was going the wrong way on the highway.
Hey folks, it's serious stuff, but we do have those little reflectors now, so if you see red reflectors on the roadway, you know you're going the wrong way. And in the event that you do find yourself going the wrong way down the road, please pull over to the right, wait for everything to be clear, and get spun around when it's safe. All right, folks? Now, that is our class time today, so every day make the world a better place, but first, do no harm. Every day, make that choice, make that decision, make that change. It's going to take you one step closer to the life you want to live, the person you want to be, or the sort of just awesome all-around friend you want to be. All right? Because every change that we make that betters ourselves makes the world a better place, because we're going to have better interactions with others, and they'll have better interactions with others because of their interactions with us. We all got to do it, folks. It's up to us to fix this place. And the easiest way to do it is to live life like that. Live life like we want to be a positive influence in everyone's life. Now, today was day 14, so we're going to get the day 14 assignment done. Tomorrow will be the last live stream day for y'all, folks. It's going to be day 15 of Teen Driver Education, the Hernandez Driveway. We're going to talk about, buying insurance, getting a car, letting you know, or paying for insurance, what the different layers or levels of insurance do for you, buying a car, sticker price versus purchase price, depreciation, things like that, credit score. We're going to talk about building your credit. We got a little bit of stuff to cover tomorrow, but I will have some time at the end of class to give y'all some sage advice, and any questions that y'all may have, we'll have plenty of time to answer those. The final exam is going to have over 140 questions on it, but don't be frightened by the term final exam. Okay? This is not so much a pass-fail exam. It's a bar that kind of lets us know how well y'all learned, and it's also going to show you exactly how much information you did pick up from driver's ed, and it's going to give you that opportunity to see, like, hey, I didn't know this, I need to know this because these are the rules. All right. So don't stress about the size of the final exam or the name of the final exam. Just take it. Do your best, and I know you'll do fine if you've done all the other assignments. Because it's as simple as that. If you watched my live streams and you've done the assignments, you're totally prepared for it, folks. So don't let it intimidate you. But that is class today. So everyone, thank you so much. Y'all have a wonderful day. We'll have plenty of time for those last minute questions tomorrow. Easily at least 45 minutes. So y'all feel free to hit me up with whatever you still need to know or you're curious on as soon as we're done with tomorrow, because we will have plenty of time for such. All right, but thank you so much, everybody. Y'all have a fantastic day. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel. Here for your live at 5 afternoon driving lesson. Here with Steve, with Mr. Salcedo, working technical support. All right, let's see here. Yeah, you only have to take the final exam once. If you'd like to retake it, you can, but don't stress about it. Like I said, it's just, this is to gauge how well you've learned, how well I've taught, and it'll also give you the opportunity to give feedback at the end if there was anything you hated about the class, anything you loved about the class. If you've been dying to complain about me to somebody, your opportunity is going to be right there, folks. All right? Or if you think I did a good job, your opportunity to say so is going to be there too. Because just like dealing with the police, you know, we need to know when someone's doing a good job. We need to know when someone's doing it bad so we can fix it. All right? So please feel free to be brutal, folks. All right, but thank you so much. Everyone, take off. Y'all have a great evening. We'll get the homework posted here in the next couple minutes and the final live stream link. So remember, everybody, just stay classy, stay awesome, and work on that observation because you're going to need it for the rest of your life. Well, I mean, it does matter if you fail, but it's not going to affect you negatively. Yeah, this is basically just to see how much you've absorbed, how well you've done. All right, but don't worry, no stress. That word exam scares people. Don't let it. All right, you got this, folks. All right, but yeah, bye, everybody. You too.